How are you doing, Tom?
I'm doing good. It's my first week back at work, and that's pretty weird. Working is a strange experience again.
Uh, how long was your downtime?
2 whole months, the entire quarantine so far.
Wow, that's like summer vacation, basically.
It would have been. I wanted summer vacation, but then, it kind of rained the entire summer, so to speak, or,
Yeah,
Christmas got canceled.
it was like when I went on sabbatical before I worked for a chain. I went to London in the dead of winter. I went from like October to mid-January. Yeah,
It is not a very fun time to go to London. I went to,
I would concur with that.
I went there for
Yeah,
my
but I had a
birthday.
good time.
Yeah. No, my birthday's in November, and I went one year, and it was just kind of gray.
Yeah, definitely. Um, how is the new job at Byte?
It's good. It's nice to be a full time iOS developer for a change. It's the first time that's happened to me. I've only been a like,
Ever?
I mean, I guess the line break when y'all hired me, I was an iOS developer, but like, I don't know. I started my own company then. That didn't count. I got to make
Yeah.
up my own job. This is the first time someone else wants to pay me to be a full time iOS developer. And actually, I've already got like one direct report for web, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to write our website in React?" And I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'm a web developer again." So 2 days of iOS. The rest we'll see.
Okay. That sounds awesome though. Seems
It's
kind of like
pretty.
the Wild West.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, nice tiny company, working on some cool stuff. Uh, it's a fun app and it's a fun team, so can't complain.
Cool.
Yeah,
You want to work on the game?
let's make a game. So let's see. We left this last time. We drew a triangle. Our player. It can't do anything except be a triangle.
Did you change to light mode in your text editor? Is this
I,
a new
I did.
development?
I did. Would you like dark mode?
I do not have preference whatsoever. Uh,
I
I'm
actually set
just
it to mirror the system mode, so actually halfway through the stream it might switch. So let me just turn that off
oh,
because that's
I
probably
actually spent most of
even
my game
weirder.
programming career in Visual Studio, and in the Windows world, the default is to have like white backgrounds. I think it's very similar to the text you're seeing right now.
hmm I
The
I
font the
kind
font was
of
always Courier new as well. That's a very old school
no, none of
choice.
that here. None of that here.
Okay.
I'm not sure. This is such an interesting. I don't know why this is doing this to the top of the file, but you know what? That's
Oh,
fine. Git wants to tell me something about the blame for this file.
oh, well, how
Yeah,
very informative.
yeah. I do not care. Nothing is dirty. It doesn't matter. No, I found
Yeah.
dark mode just kind of hard to read during the day, and I switched to light, and I was much happier. So
There is going to be like, skeuomorphism is coming back a little bit, right? Like like
a
we're
little
starting to
bit.
see like well-defined buttons again.
Oh, thank God.
Maybe there's going to be like a light mode resurgence, and you're going to be like on the vanguard. You're going to be like riding the unicorn with a battle axe.
Gosh, I hope so, because like dark mode, I don't know. I like it at night. I like when I can go to a website and it's not GitHub White at after dark. That's all I want.
Yeah.
But during the day, I kind of keep my stuff white. Doesn't
So as a quick recap, we are making a game that for now is going to be like an overhead view tank game. You want a little tank to kind of roll around. Um, I guess the mechanics of motion are going to be that there's some input that allow you to rotate the tank,
Mhm.
essentially around its central axis on this plane, the XY plane, and then maybe another set of inputs to let it move forward and backwards. Although we can play with the motion all we want. And I guess we'll see how far we can get into it. I sort of proposed like a sketch agenda before we started this, but I'm
Mhm.
really happy to go in a number of different directions tonight. I mean, I think getting the tank to move around would be really nice and cool. But then after that point, like we could make it shoot something. There's nothing
Mhm.
to shoot yet, but we could just like animate bullets or whatever. And or the other thing we could do is like work on the map do some like really prototypical terrain editing just in a text file or something like that.
Yep.
How are you feeling?
I think rotate and shoot bullets sound like a good first step, and I bet we'll get that done rather quickly once we drop a matrix multiplication library in here.
Yeah.
And then map and like making it so that we can shoot things would be great. Like shoot some trees, shoot some mountains, whatever that ends up being.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Cool. So we had a couple. Did you want to try GL matrix as the matrix multiplication library?
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of these libraries. We had talked about a handful of them, right? GL Matrix is one of them. 2.js is another. And then I think you also mentioned math.js, right?
Yeah, math.js is just like super basic, but like has a matrices in here.
Got it.
Like we just want to multiply a matrix. This got it.
Yeah, it's got complex numbers too. That's fancy.
This actually has a lot of stuff I wanted. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Interesting. I noticed that has arctan2, which I believe is like a table-driven arctan. Does JavaScript not have an arctan function built into it?
That's a great question.
Yeah, it's not like it comes up frequently in web development, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I've never. No, it does actually. Yeah.
Most languages are going to have that built in. So
I think.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say. I think Math.js takes everything that normal Math dot has and adds its own stuff.
Got it. And then what does the matrix API look like? The vector and matrix thing.
That is a great question. I love it. Just use primitives.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty nice.
And yeah, I'm sure it's relatively equivalent to GL. I think GL matrix. If you go to GL matrix, what does that API look like?
Let's see. We gotta find segmentation.
Oh, I got it. So they have much more kind of specialized functions, and the reason why they include the dimensions is because that way they can bound the loops, right? They know exactly how large the columns and rows are, whereas if you do it in a more generic way, technically it's slower because you're doing like length checks every single time, right?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I would actually say, okay, and then we haven't talked about 2.js, right? But the thing about 2.js is that it has kind of a lot more going on. It's not just math, and I think actually the vector library is really simplistic. What it's really more about is like a better primitive drawing API. Right.
When we get rotation straight off the bat without having to do any multiplication, which is nice.
Yeah. So what it feels like, the pros and cons of these things. I think if we were to continue doing a lot of primitive drawing, and that's how we actually compose the aesthetic of our game, then 2.js seems like pretty promising, especially if we're continue to do like 2D stuff. And then between GL Matrix and Math.js, I could kind of go either way. I actually think like a big discriminating factor would be like how good is the TypeScript support in either of those, right? Like how much like autocomplete do we get? And then the thing with GL Matrix is that it's probably more game oriented than Math.js is, right? Math.js has like probably stuff that you can use for doing like complex numbers and that sort of thing. And GL Matrix also has quaternions, which will matter if we get into 3D.
Interesting.
Do you know what a quaternion is? I'm not going to get into it too much. But,
I haven't used that before.
A quaternion is a way to describe an orientation in three-dimensional space, right? Because if you think about it, it's like normally like the intuitive way of thinking about rotation of dimensional space is through 3 Euler angles. So it's like rotation along the x-axis, rotation along the y-axis, rotation along the z-axis. And that's pretty intuitive, but it turns out that like it's an awkward representation when you want to do like sort of angle rotations. Like I want to like move in a certain direction. I won't claim to understand the math super well, but if we wanted an API that would last us into the 3D version of the tank game, then GeoMatrix might be a little bit better for us.
Okay.
So that's the kind of gamut of considerations I think across these libraries.
Cool. I think GeoMatrix looks like it might. It looks at least more purpose-built. You're right about Math.js being kind of. It looks like they just had some generic stuff, and especially if we do have like objects running in a game loop, I'd rather do the thing that's more performant. So,
yeah, the choice of Verdana as a font on their website is also a damning critique.
So
2002, guys.
Oh goodness. Okay, so let's add this sucker. You want to add GeoMatrix? Squeeze me. Okay. Let's go to npm. Possibly, yeah.
Nice. And then, do you know if that
what?
If we can
Wait.
go back to the...
Sorry, npm is part of GitHub. Oh.
Yeah. They. I guess technically Microsoft
bought npm. Yikes. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's fine. There's only 2 companies. It's okay.
Then we might want to, if this doesn't come with its TypeScript annotations, which we can check if we look at it. There's also the @type/. Yeah. Totally.
You know, I just do this sometimes without even checking, and if it has it, I know I'm right.
Yeah.
Great.
Wonderful.
Cool. Yep. So let's see GeoMatrix from GeoMatrix.
Very cool. And I wonder how they're exporting.
Yeah.
I think if you use the curve braces here, we're going to be exporting.
That's
so there are few enough classes in the GeoMatrix namespace that I wonder if we should be maybe importing these directly into the files. The curly brace thing maybe is something we can look to, just like we can import vec2, for example.
That looks like a thing, but I think vec2 is undefined here.
Oh, so maybe they're not.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what you get with the package, but it looks like they are doing. Yeah, these are all hanging off of this. I'm surprised that I can't import this.
I didn't know about the is it the comma syntax? I don't know if that works.
Am I full of shit? I am full of shit. Okay. I thought you could do that. Great.
Nice. And then is vec2 a type or is it a namespace? I think it's actually a namespace.
Yeah, all their things are basically little modules.
And so I guess we just pass in an array of 2 numbers. Is that the idea?
It looks like we create a vec2.
Oh, I see. Yes. So there's a constructor.
Yeah. And it's not even clear that it takes parameters.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, and then I'm guessing that. Oh, I see what it's doing. You see line 14. I think it's actually creating like a low-level JavaScript array. That's what I think is happening. Which means that I think we can directly. Oh, this is actually interesting. I don't know if we're going to do matrices, but the question is like, is a matrix in this a two-dimensional array or a one-dimensional array where the rows are stuck one after another? Do you know what I mean? We probably don't.
Yeah.
Probably don't care. We won't do that much matrix math, but
One-dimensional.
yes, one-dimensional. Okay.
Interesting.
Sweet.
So this is like a this is an interesting. You have to add two. You add two vec2s. Oh, sorry. It's adding. You add two vectors to get the new vector.
Yeah.
And then this should be. Yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
That it is interesting. Is this a normal way to construct a vector?
It is. I mean, I think what would be nice if there was like a vector class, but I think what they're trying to do is to make it fast. I think they're maybe trying to avoid doing dynamic dispatch, something like that.
Yeah, and notably, we've taken a vector and we're giving it an output, and it's modifying this, so it's actually like memory stable to do this operation, which is fun.
Yeah.
This does feel like it's built for performance only, so into it.
Yeah, I mean, JavaScript doesn't have operator overloading in the first place. Like the things that you can do in C++ is like override the plus operator so that like you can just like use kind of intuitive notation for that. And taken too far, that kind of thing gets really crazy. But I think it's actually not bad if you're minimalist about it in C++. And it's too bad that we don't have that capability here.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, why don't we start with this, and if it gets annoying, we can try something else. Is that still okay?
Yeah. Excuse me. Gosh. Okay, cool. So for the purpose of our stuff, is everything a vec2? Is position now also a vec2?
I think it is, yes.
Okay. And then our constructor is like const posvec equals vec2 dot create.
Or position equals vec2 dot create, something like that. This dot position equals vec2.
Oh, you know what?
And then
That's right. We get to update that however we want. Yep.
Yeah.
So let's see. So that actually and then our x's and y's become zeros and ones. And there we go, back where we started. Okay. Sort of back where we started. I didn't put the position in there, but we'll get to that. I guess I could do vec2 dot add this position. I guess I could just say I'll take this vector and add.
Totally.
Okay.
I wonder if there's like a plus equals equivalent in a GL matrix. Which would save you a tiny bit of typing. It's not that big of a deal, but
yeah.
It's easy to stress out about this kind of thing. So I think it's weird.
I can handle this. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So the next thing we have to do is multiply this by the matrix, and you had that matrix last time. Do you remember what it was?
So we might. Oh yes, we want to do rotations. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you just Wikipedia 2D rotation matrix, I think we might be able to get that. Although GL matrix might have a function that will do this for us. Is there a rotate in there?
Whoa. Oh, that's cool. Also, is identity what I should be using? Cool. I bet this actually.
I think we're looking at we're
Yep,
actually looking at the matrix, the mat2.
Oh, sorry. I was just hoping that it had that identity with like the initial value is what it actually wanted. But yes, I thought they had a consistent API, but no, just the matrix. So okay, so basically
you are definitely onto something here. I do
Yeah.
actually think that the rotation matrix. Yeah, you've got this. You totally got this.
Yeah.
Like,
No, sorry. I was just excited to not have to do line 14, hoping that Vec2 had the same API that I just found for this one. Let's see. So this is mat2 dot from rotation, and then our radians is this dot orientation.
Yep.
Now this from rotation.
That is the result actually. So that's interesting. Out.
This is
so they're asking you to create the. I mean, this is a weird API. You set the. You could probably do mat2.identity.
It wants this, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
So and then identity should be you get a new identity. Okay. So sorry. So okay. So now if we log this is a weird API, but like okay. And then if I change this to like 45, we should get something very different. Okay. And so
that's 45 radians, by the way.
I was gonna say I gotta work on my radians because is 1/2 a full rotation or is
a full rotation is 2 pi, so 2 times mat.pi.
Oof. Nope.
Yep.
There you go. Boy, JavaScript got so close to 0, but really couldn't couldn't do it in the end.
I think you can blame the IEEE floating point spec. Yeah.
And I do.
Yeah.
Cool.
Those bastards.
Okay, so this is really interesting. So we take this rotation matrix and apply it to this vector.
Yeah. So I guess probably your instincts are totally right. So like line 25, line 27, line 28, line 31, line 32, we transform all of those vectors by the rotation matrix. And the multiplication, I believe, is going to be like probably mat2 dot multiply. Is there such a thing?
I think there was, yeah. So you can multiply 2 vec2s, and I assume you can multiply 2 mat2s, but how do we turn this into a... Oh, it's...
This is actually interesting. Maybe multiplies the wrong thing. Because a mat2... Well, what is a mat2? Is it a 2x2 matrix? What is it that we're talking? I think it might, in geomatrix terms, it might be like 2x2 matrix.
I think it's a 2-dimensional matrix. Does it have to be 2x2?
I think the answer is yes. Let me also open up the documentation just so I can maybe take a look as well. And what's funny is, I use geomatrix in the wireframe rendering demo, and so we could always cheat and look at that. But let's flounder around like this very masculine practice of not asking for directions. We're just gonna try to figure it out for about 5 minutes longer than we need to.
We're reading the docs, but no. This is also a 2D matrix because you can shorthand it as you can represent x and y as
something cool.
Yeah. Yeah, give me what you
There's
got.
actually vec2.rotate. That is a function.
Oh, come on. Everything has a rotate. Fine. You know what I'll do? I want to read this function. And then let's just call it.
That's so they're not they are very deliberately being spare about it. They're not
They're not
consuming their
using.
own dog food here. They're just going for it,
Great.
which is actually
Oh,
good, right?
yeah. Okay, so in this world, we're going to take this point, which is our vec2,
Yeah.
and rotate it around the origin that is the center of our object.
Yeah, or the other thing that we could do is rotate and then translate it. So the idea is that the points that we're actually rotating, the equivalent on line 25, or rather the equivalent on line 20, well, the line 25 one is the pointy tip, right? And that one is basically relative to the origin of the entity, the control point, basically. Its x coordinate is 0. So rather than it being this dot position 0, it would just be 0. And then its y coordinate would be negative tile size times 0.5. The origin of rotation, we just use 0, 0. And then we'd basically rotate them, all of those points first, and then we would translate them all by the position. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that too because really this is like a const up here, which is points, which is an array of 0, negative.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense. Let's see. Tile size times 0.3. Tile size times 0.5, and then the same thing, but the first property is negative.
And we are basically making our own little shader here, kind of.
Kind of, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, this is like const player shape or something. We could type it. Okay, I like that. So we're gonna move to player shape 0. Player shape 0. And then we're gonna rotate. So we get a new point that we give it the identity. Oh, sorry, we give it our point, the identity, and the radians.
Yeah, we might even
and
be
then
able to
translate
do a map. I wonder if we're able to do like a map over, like if we do like a map over the player shape.
Yep.
And so we could actually do the translation and rotation almost the same thing if we wanted to.
That's brilliant. Yeah. I love it. Okay. Let's see. This is going to be play shape dot map. Oops. And then point. It's interesting because we have this like we need to return. This out thing is so weird because it's gonna have us like use this memory address repeatedly, and we can't.
What we can do is I think we can actually just pass in vec2.create with no arguments. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to say that like we're not going to construct the output array in case you want to like in case you've already done it. But you can construct the output array but just by passing in the like.
It does just return it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Vec2.create. I like that. Let's see.
And then A is just gonna be 0, 0. I believe
it's the point. So this is point.
Okay. Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
And we could do the like I guess you're saying we could rotate around 0 and then translate, but if we hand this dot position here, it'll
Oh yeah,
already be it's rotated and translated.
That'll add the translation for you.
Exactly.
Right there. Yeah, that's fine.
So that's that.
Mm-hmm.
Except it doesn't like this.
We might need to make point read on to. What we could do is up where we define player shape. Maybe we can make those all. Boy, what we need is like an inline, like a single line function that will create a vec based on the array that we pass in. So maybe we can make that function, and that'll be a little like we call it like v2, like a function v2. And what we do is pass in like a two-dimensional array, and then what it'll call is vec2.create, and then it'll set the first variable into the first thing that we element that we pass in, and then it'll set the second element to the second element that we pass in. Does that make sense? And we're just trying to make up for the weird API that.
Does this do it though? Nope, that's much less happy. No, sorry, array of float32 arrays. I'm doing the TypeScript thing where I just try to match. I just try to match its type sometimes.
Yes, I mean that's a totally valid way to program, I think.
Yeah, but it's not Python, so.
Okay.
I've never used this type. Oh, these just need to be this. Okay. This is okay. We're just going to use some weird JavaScript primitive.
Yeah. And so I confess this is a little bit leakier than we may want, just because if the implementation of GL matrix, like we're kind of like reaching into the implementation of GL matrix to pull out the float32 array, right?
Right.
So one way to handle that, GL matrix has its own way of defining these things. So whatever its TypeScript annotations are doing.
Right.
We could take a look at that and then. Oh, it is just the float32 array. Okay, that's fine. Whatever.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I used that because it was the right thing. It's extremely annoying that this doesn't work because it's also like it's the right type sort of. But it's not. I think it's because it has a variable length that it's unhappy.
Yes. And it also, it's not guaranteeing the fidelity of the numbers either.
Right.
It's like you basically underlying have like a float64 array probably. I'm guessing that's what those are.
Yep.
What would you say to, since performance is not a big concern, what if we abstracted that away into a function?
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't have to know the details, right, at that point.
Yeah, and also that could happen right here. What?
Sure.
Oh God, can I JavaScript it? Yes. That's dumb.
That is dumb.
Yeah, that feels more right though. At least it's happening at the place that we need it.
Sure.
Yeah. The other, sorry, wait, I have an even dumber syntax, which also always works and is very readable.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. I'm down for it.
I think the float32 just felt like a strange smell to me because we weren't actually. Yeah. It had no purpose in the code. Okay, so wait. So if I log this, I'm gonna get the exact same thing because we haven't rotated it.
Yeah. We could set the orientation to like pi/2. And that should rotate it clockwise 90 degrees, which should make it pointing east, right? But we haven't updated our rendering code, so
Oh gosh.
it's not going to bite yet.
So we haven't.
0, 0, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Now we're talking. 1, 0. Boy, Java. I feel like my editor is not ready to do this much bracket syntax. 2, 0.
But you know what? You look like a real game programmer now, because it's all
Really?
just like looking stuff up. Oh yeah.
Hey. Sort of.
Positionally, we are weird.
Yeah. What's going on here? Let's.
I will.
Yeah. I wanted to look at what the position actually was that we were trying to render. It is 100, 100.
So I think the problem is that line 26 and line 27 are in different spaces. Line 26 is not actually the origin. Line 26 is not relative to this dot position. Does that make sense? It is relative to 0, 0. So
right, we're not rotating, yeah, because it's what it's doing here is it's taking this point, drawing the shape here and rotating it. It's like rotating it this way, but like as if it was on a string around this, right? Around some point over here.
Yeah, it's doing something quite confusing, which is it's actually rotating the point 0, negative 0.5 around 100, 100.
Right.
So it's actually a really wide swing that's happening. So we have a choice. One thing that you could do is on line 26, you could do, well, you get line 27 back to where it was, which is this dot position. And then on line 26, you do this dot position 0 plus 0.0 and this dot position 1 plus 0.1. Does that make sense?
Right. Yep. That makes sense to me. Yeah, I was gonna say we could. There you go.
Yeah. And there might be advantages or disadvantages to using the vector to addition functions, just so like expressions like 26, like line 26, are a little bit cleaner. But you know, this is totally fine. Another way to do this, where we're maybe not compacting rotation and translation in the same thing, is exactly. Is to have 0, 0 there. We don't on line 26. We don't do the addition with this dot position, and then we do another map on top of this. So it'd be slightly less performant, but maybe clearer to read, where we just add this dot position to each point. Right.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It wouldn't be add, right? It would just be vec2.add vec2.create. Like we're adding we're adding this and this dot position.
Exactly. Yeah.
All these create calls feel a little wasteful, but running a second map loop feels even worse.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Although I actually think they end up being, you had to create it at some point because it doesn't exist anywhere in what you've written so far. You had to create that array at some point. Yeah.
I'm into this. This looks cool.
Yeah, it does look cool. Great.
I guess we could do this as 2 calls too if we wanted, but it's JavaScript. You got to write one-liners.
Yeah. I mean, the other way to the other way to do it would be to do .map, right? Like the first map does the rotation, the second map does the addition. That's actually slower, right? You're doing like two iterations.
Right.
It's just a readability trade-off at that point, I would say.
Well, I mean, you don't need a second map. You just rotate, and then I would move the add just to a second line inside the map. So still 2 end operations, but 1 end loops.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Totally.
Is that faster? God, it's been so long. That is the same operation count actually, so probably not.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Well, that's really neat that this works and is. Huh.
So, do we want to add some input to this? Input handling.
Yeah, I think so. I was kind of thinking the player object would set up some handler functions as in its constructor.
You could do that. The other thing we could do is we could define what you see a lot with like entity classes is that they have an update and a render function. And the game loop calls update on everything, and then it calls render on everything.
Cool. I like that.
So that's what we do. Yeah.
And like update, we let it set the orientation basically.
We could read key presses inside the update function. That's sort of what I was thinking. Yeah.
Oh, so we just say like, is key down, do this, otherwise ignore.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, clever. Cool. God.
We might need to copy some stuff. This is where it might be valuable to.
I already forgot. Yeah. The worst JavaScript program. I'm like, how do I do a key down thing again? Like, it's add event listener. Yep.
Yeah.
Where is my other window?
I think we create, I think we have to manually create a new window. This is Visual Studio Code.
Visual Studio Y.
But now I think you lost the other one.
I did. I'm going to open that individual file in this workspace. Because that's, let's see. So let me think about this, because there we go. We don't add the event listener in key down.
Ooh, great points.
Yeah, we can't add the listener and update, and there's not really a check. You can't really ask JavaScript, is this key held down, can you?
No. You could add it in the constructor and assume that you only have one player. The other thing that we can do, and maybe this is a step too early for this thing, but you could create a class which is called like the keyboard input handler that is instantiated once at the very beginning of the game. And it is a dependency that the player is either instantiated with, or you pass it into the update function, or you just make it a singleton and fetch it from the global namespace or something.
Yeah, let everyone depend on it. Let's set an event listener in the constructor now, and maybe let update. Well, update can't function because this is an evented language, and
you could claim that it actually makes sense to just do it in the constructor here, because like you could have multiple entities listening to these events, right? If you wanted to.
Yeah, I'm very curious about the input, like the input manager essentially, because it'd be nice to have something that is like the source of truth for like repeated keystrokes, like holding down, how fast do you send it, how fast do you let something, take action. So in general, I like it. Let's see.
What's ironic is you're going to find that we're going to actually re-implement key up and key down stuff, but we want it in lockstep with our frame updates, and that's why we can't use those event listeners directly.
Right. Oh, and that is exactly what we did here, isn't it? We have a key down set that is Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Okay, so then we do in update see what's in the key down set. because it will be tied to our frame rate. So that's cool.
And we need to add I think all three of those listeners because they do different things, right?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, one of them has to actually remove this from the set, doesn't it? Huh.
Yeah, I think both focus out and key up will do that.
Yep. Focus out being like you've left the window, you've clicked out of the canvas. Yeah. Let's see, and let's grab our key map while we're in here. Yeah, all this stuff needs to be deduplicated. We're gonna use this elsewhere. Yeah. Okay. Then it's, I don't know, orientation plus equal that. This dot orientation.
Yeah.
And key map. Oops.
That might need to be a member of the.
Yeah, thank you. Set of what's? Oops.
It's gonna be numbers. TypeScript is so rad. They really pull the rabbit out of the hat, I think.
Yeah, I appreciate that this is the thing that we have to write all our software. I mean, you saw that GitHub editor today. That is just, we ship TypeScript. We shipped a TypeScript like Electron app to the browser, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That team must be having a party right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know what we're not doing is calling an update.
Yeah. We don't. I don't think we have a game loop right now, do we?
We do. We have a game loop.
Oh, we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We rule.
Yeah. No, we got a game loop. We got a board. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cannot read has of undefined.
Oh, 927 is this stuff.
Yeah. Okay, key down is not defined. That's because it's except for you. Hey.
Holy shit.
Hey. Okay, cool. Let's do one more, which is up. So this is a fun one where we get to use vectors. Because this dot position equals vec2 dot add this dot position, and I don't know, 1 1 1. Oh no, it always goes in the same direction.
So what's interesting is that the vector that we add needs to be rotated by our orientation.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, gotta wrap my head around the rotation yet again.
And this time it'll go in the update, right? Maybe one thing we could do is we could actually say, here's what I recommend, that we have a displacement vector, which is essentially our velocity vector, right? We could call it the velocity. And the velocity starts off at 0 0. Which is nothing. But if it is, if the key is down, then it goes to 0 and whatever we think the y, like if it was like oriented north, whatever we think that velocity should be going north, which I think is 1, right? It's 1 in what you've typed here. And then and then at the underneath all of this, like after line 48, we rotate that velocity vector. So it's either 0 0 or 0 1. We rotate it by the orientation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what's happening.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Or we can call it the speed, right? Or, because the actual velocity is going to end up being like a directional, right? Yeah.
Right, and that assumes our shape is oriented up, so this is an up speed. Oh man, math is doing this for a shape is very interesting compared to the Pong paddle. I feel like we didn't get this deep into it. This is cool.
Yeah, totally.
All right. So we take Okay, we're going to take our speed, rotate it, and add it to position. Great. That's not bad. Let's see. So it just goes here because we're adding to that. You're going to do this to me again. I'm just going to do this.
Yeah.
Hey.
Seems like it's a little backwards, but
it's because this speed, if this were going up, is -1.
Oh, yes, of course.
Woohoo! Hey, that's pretty cool.
Exciting?
This is honestly really exciting. This is much more fun than some CSS I've written. That's slick. That's just so cool. Wow. Oh, it handles like a dream too.
Yeah, let's do some position clamping so you can't drive off the edge.
Great point. Yeah, wait, I can just do that right now, can't I?
Yeah.
Cool.
Which is cool, right? You have an infinite playfield, actually.
Oh, you know what? I got a thought.
Hmm.
What if the edge is looped?
Oh yeah, asteroids, totally.
Right, of course.
The player has to be aware of the playfield size. Sadly,
we need that to clamp anyway, right? We couldn't actually. Yeah.
The other thing we could do is clamp in the game loop, and well, I don't love that. I think the entity should be aware of what its final position is at any given moment. What I was going to say is like the game loop could do it because it's a general rule that we'd probably apply to every entity. But what will probably happen is just like maybe all of our business logic for entities is going to start in the player class, and gradually we're going to sort of factor out everything that's common into components that we can compose, right?
Yeah. Well, if we wanted to clamp, would the more generic approach be to build like a bounding box at the edge of the playfield that just everything hits? If we have other entities or bullets or...
Yeah, lots of different ways to do it. It really kind of depends on if we feel like special handling needs to be applied to the boundaries, which may or may not be the case. Because we're going to be doing collision against walls, right? We're going to have walls, and like we're going to want to be able to do mazes and that kind of thing.
Yep.
And the question is, does that collision work the same way as the collision around the edges? And I suppose off the top of my head, the collision around the edges should be higher priority. Like you actually kind of want to make that the be all end all. And even if you're like in a weird state, you wouldn't want like a wall near the edge of the screen to push you outside of the playfield, right?
Right.
And so that's a reason why you may want to handle clamping as a special case, as opposed to just handling it with the wall. But I will also say that in a lot of tile-based level editors that I've made, oftentimes you just draw an invisible wall around the playfield, and that's your collision. So
I was going to say I've seen that where it's the bounds of a game when you like turn the cameras. Actually, they just wrote more walls, which I think is really great.
Yeah. So
cool.
Maybe we don't worry about clamping right now, and we can worry about wall.
Yeah, I think, or we worry about wall collision. Sooner. Well, you know what? Let's do bullets.
Yeah.
Because and then we build a wall. That makes a lot of sense. That'd be cool. Okay.
So as we kind of work on this, there are two different motion alternatives that might be fun to play with. I think it's perfect right now, by the way, but there are two different things that I think would be kind of fun to mess with. One of them is to emulate Bolo style acceleration and deceleration. Now, I didn't love that. Just like playing it, it kind of feels like a really archaic way to play, but there are probably things that we could do to tune it to make it feel both a little bit more realistic, but also not as wonky. The other thing that would be fun to do, and this is violating the Bolo style game mechanics entirely, is twin stick shooters. which is you use Y to move it up and down, and then you use left and right to rotate the turret. So you can actually aim independently of your motion, which I think would also be a really fun development as well.
Oh, that would make. Honestly, both of them would be nice. That would make, if the tank was kind of like had that heavy acceleration, but you could aim the turret separately, it would be a very interesting game, I think.
Yeah.
I just like this little tank spaceship though. Damn it.
Right?
Right. That's fun. Okay, well I think I want to shoot bullets because based on this, I have like maybe now a rough appreciation for like how we're gonna fire things off in directions.
Yep.
I do.
So
I like that.
Really fun. Because it's not just animated bullet. This is, you can tell what a dweeb I am, because really the challenge about this is how does the player make the game loop aware of more bullets, and then how do you handle the update of an arbitrary number of bullets, right? So like, what is the container that these things all go into, right?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I also have that question. Interesting. Oh, you know what? I don't think we use position anymore, do we?
No, we replace everything with our snazzy Vec2 object.
Yeah. Why is it TypeScript should be TypeScript should be angrier at me, I guess.
Yeah. So common.ts, we can actually probably just get rid of the position class because we've inherited Sorry, bro.
Not that sorry. It's great. I like what we got. Oh, and we're not using Mat2 either here, are we? We did everything with Vector 2s because Vector 2 was great. Nice. All right. Let's fix the bullet shape later, but
okay.
So I guess a lot of this, the object looks fairly similar. I guess we know we'll have a constructor, an update, and a render. But yeah, so how there's like some dependency injection or like global state that has to be updated here to tell for the game loop to know about the bullets. What's the
Okay, so lots of patterns for this.
Yeah.
One way to, so this is actually just like such a rich topic of pointless nerdery that is really easy to kind of like lose yourself into. So let me give you like a sliding spectrum of options. One is that we dependency inject from the game loop an array of bullets. It's just a straight up array. So it is defined in the game loop and then passed into the player class that we just append to. And then the game loop will iterate over that and call update on each of those bullets, right? And then also iterate over that and call render on those bullets. That's like the most basic thing that I can think of, right? And we can go from there kind of like through to maybe a middle point position where instead of this, we have an entity manager, which is like the container of all of our entities. We create an entity base class that both the player and the bullets inherit from. And so you know that they have update and render, right? And then also like objects in a tree, every child has a pointer to its parent, so every entity has a pointer to the entity manager that it sits in. Does that make sense? And then you can basically add stuff to the entity manager. You can say like insert a bullet into the entity manager.
And can entities contain other entities? I guess that's maybe like a choice for the engine, essentially.
It is. I think at that point, it's better to like have almost like a database table of entities and have associations between them, and
Okay.
let the dependent entity just like look up stuff on the on its dependency and update itself based on that. I think that's preferable to the idea of nesting entities inside of each other.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So,
should we make an entity class?
Yeah,
that feels
fine.
pretty right to me. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then at the furthest extreme is what a system called entity component system, and or otherwise known as ECS. And that is where you kind of decompose entities into tiny, like, purpose-driven modules. Like that was the thing where I was talking about, where like an entity is actually composed of a transpose module, which basically is a position in space and an orientation. It has a renderable. It has like, you basically like, there's no actual entity class. All it is a bunch of components that share the same entity ID. So it's a little bit more like almost as if you were designing it as like a web app, right? You have these different tables of different transposes, different renderables, different things like that, and they all just have this ID that joins them together.
That's so interesting.
That one's quite complicated to think about. It can be pretty clean, but we can talk about that. I think we can do maybe a code review of that wireframe demo that I did, and because I implemented it in that style. We can talk about the pros and cons there. But let's do the traditional thing. The traditional thing probably is the entity manager with entities in it.
That sounds great. Yeah. Yeah. And let's see.
Is there a difference between interfaces and classes in TypeScript from a method definition point of view?
An interface. You might be able to get away with that. Yeah, I think that's actually, I like that, because
interface looks like a struct to me. It looks like you're defining something that has properties.
But like update and render are
just function properties, right?
Right, exactly. So you just define them as a function signature. Does entity have any base behavior? Because in that case, class makes more sense. Otherwise, interface is great.
Yeah, I mean, in other languages, I prefer interface to class if you can get away with it, right? But I'm not sure if TypeScript likes that kind of thing.
I guess I'll just do it. Let's start with this and see how we end up.
Yeah,
we can always implement a class that inherits that as the base. How does a class implement an interface, though?
Oh, it says you probably don't. It's probably Go style, where you don't actually even you don't say that a class implements an interface. You just you just pass it into the thing that expects the interface, and the type checker should just let it happen. So we can verify this by just typing. We can maybe create the entity manager class and add like an add function. Oh, there's an implements. Holy shit!
I think it's implements. Yeah. Because I really want this to happen.
Yeah. I can sense the passion in you, dog.
Well, I hate when you can like I shouldn't be able to make a class and pass it. Like, I shouldn't rely on TypeScript for like the final step. It should really be like, TypeScript should be angry that I haven't implemented.
Yeah, nice.
Render is missing. Cool.
That's what we want.
All right, that's cool. And if this were a class, it's extends. That's the keyword difference.
And I don't love inheritance in general. But sometimes you can't avoid it. Like, you get into like this sort of dark hole where a lot of the games that I worked on were like inheritance hell, where what would happen is you'd have these base functions that define generic functionality, and they would basically call hooks, and you'd define the hooks inside the child classes, right? But then you get into some situations where it was like, oh crap, I want this entity to not call the hooks in the same order that the base class wants it to, so I'm going to like override the common functionality.
Weird.
yeah, it gets ugly. And so I think this is where you get rules in object-oriented programming where some people are like, I'm going to make a lint rule where you can only have your only overridable functions have to be abstract, right? Like there are those kinds of things where it's like if there's like common functionality that structures a workflow, you are never allowed to override that. And I think that kind of rule is a reaction to like the crazy shit that can happen if you like do a lot of different inheritance. So, anyways,
Yeah. No, that makes.
I see. You're adding to the interface. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. Oh, we need something. It's interesting because this either needs to be like defined at constructor time, so that there's a couple of things. Like an entity can in its constructor be like this dot entity manager is, global entity manager or something. Like we could set that up, or shared manager,
or we could dependency inject, right? We could just make it an argument to the constructor.
Yeah.
What's funny is we're probably never going to have more than one, but the unit test fans will like dependency injection, right?
I'm okay with that, and I like that it means entities can spawn more entities because it can always take its manager and say like, cool, here's where the next one goes. So that feels really good to me. So let's see, entity manager. Let's call it manager.
Yeah.
Did I call it I called it manager.
Yeah.
Yep. Does not exist on type player, but it does.
Well, here's the interesting thing is that it doesn't, right? Because now we're getting into a territory where maybe having a class extends has advantages because this is a common declaration, right? But I'm actually, to be honest,
I'm okay with that.
We're going to have to do this for every entity type. We're going to have that line equivalent of line 21, right?
Right, exactly. My heart isn't broken.
Okay. So
this is very lightweight, and it's hard. Like it's hard for us to end up with weird circular dependencies on this. So there's a lot to love about that.
I think it's totally fine. What may end up happening though is you're going to find that maybe we're going to end up factoring out more properties from player. Like we basically might have some common behavior, things like acceleration and velocity, clamping to the, and we're going to have to basically make a decision on how we want to implement those kind of things. But I think what we've got right now is totally fine.
Okay. Yeah. I see it coming.
There's going to be like we could cross that bridge when it comes to it. Oh yes, this is very good. This should be in the interface.
Yep. I love that the interface is defining. Yeah, the existing class define the interface. The interface is great. That all works. Cool. Okay, so now our player constructor is going to be really unhappy. And then we have to, oops, I already imported that. Oh God, it just did that for me. Great. Love it.
Amazing.
I know. So here we need to do something like, do we need like a register function? Unregister.
That takes an energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Register is entities dot append push. Unregister is see, I wish this would work. It's got to be this dot entities dot find.
So this is interesting.
Yeah.
How does it know? What is it matching on?
So I mean, that's a good question.
You need an ID or something like that.
Right. Well,
Okay.
yeah, no, that this is actually we're just gonna increment a number.
Yep.
And also, I guess entities now have IDs.
And then, do we set it when we register? Is that the?
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say register is e.id equals global ID, and then this guy global ID plus plus.
Yep.
Is that terrible? It's not that terrible.
I don't think it's terrible. Maybe the ID is better. This is one of those like mutual ownership things that's like we can just do it the simple way and not lose sleep over it. But I always want something clean, right? I want to be able to set the manager on an entity and assign the ID at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and right, instead of like manager dot register. So I guess the one way to do that is to so TypeScript would make these optional because then
so
we could.
I'm sorry. So one way to do that would be to well, there's actually a lot of different ways we could do it. One way to do that is we don't set the manager on the entity until we register it into the entity manager. So register would actually set both the ID and the manager pointer. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And that way, when you create the entity, it's independent of the manager.
Yep.
Yeah.
That moves both of these into optionality.
Yeah.
But it's not. This is not the worst thing in the world because if the entity manager is our loop for doing all this, anything that's not registered won't actually it'll never get called anyway. So
what does it mean in TypeScript when you access the manager and it's nullable? Do you have to do a null check, or will it just like let you fail?
You have to do a null check.
Okay. Okay, so that's going to force us to have a little bit of boilerplate, which may be fine.
Yeah, it is. I think it's. Well, we'll see how it evolves because I don't know. I get the feeling that we do want some. I feel like this should be a class, at least in some base level. So, yeah. Yeah, you know what? Next stream.
Okay.
Let's make like 3 entities before we really decide.
Okay.
And then let's see. Find. I want to find index. Instead of this.
Do a filter. Can we do like this dot entities equals this dot entities filter?
Yeah. Well, the thing that we want is we want to filter everything except the matching ID. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I was about to suggest that this actually be an object and everything be keyed by ID, so we could delete.
That's
delete would be atomic.
That's fine too.
Yeah. Okay. What is the syntax for that though? It is number entity. Yeah. Get equals E.
Somehow an object keyed by number feels weird to me. And that just like it's like that weird duality array-ish thing in JavaScript,
Yeah, I'm with you.
Could also just generate a GUID. That's a perfectly fine.
Yeah, is there a?
We might have to grab it. Yeah.
Okay.
Or probably UUID. Yeah.
I do like this. I always feel so much safer using these. I'm just like, you know what? I absolutely cannot get it wrong.
Yeah. And this may be over engineering, but a lot of like seasoned game developers, what's interesting is they end up treating a lot of their game logic like they're dealing with relational databases. So it turns out that like the weird, clunky database model that we just use because we're forced to use relational databases and SQL stuff, ends up unknowingly a pretty good data-oriented model. I think it makes things flexible. It doesn't couple things together too tightly, and we're already kind of like tipping our toes into it, at least superficially, right?
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm just happy to see some of like the concepts I'm used to actually happening in games and being useful again. So there, no incrementing, none of this. Oh, entities needs to be a thing here. Yeah, I've been witnessing a friend's game development, and it's actually very interesting to like see web programmers try to tackle a game, and game programmers try to tackle a web app, and have the whole thing. Yeah, have the whole thing be like, oh yeah, like I know how to solve that problem, but like y'all are doing it in a very interesting way. Yeah, it's like some knowledge sharing would have like made everything a little better.
Yeah. What is line 15 complaining about?
I don't know. I was wondering about that. You just need me to.
Oh, I see what's going on here. No. I think I think it's assuming that you have a string number.
You know what? This is what I get wrong every time. TypeScript object key type.
Well, the thing is, the key type for an object is always string in JavaScript, and I don't think you can get around that.
Oh, great. That's fine. I think this is still enforcing that it's still expecting the word string to be some object here, right?
Yeah, it is
There's just a object.
What we want is just like we're trying to say that it's a dictionary mapping strings to entities, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this always. Oh man, I always feel so silly because I've never. You've seen this syntax, right? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's killed me before for the same exact reason.
It's an index type. Thank you.
Okay.
Nope.
Is it string bracket entity? So no curly braces. It's just
no curly braces.
So is it just like string, not string in brackets, string and then a bracket?
No,
and then the word entity inside there. Yeah.
No, that's an array, or like a 2D array. That's here we go. This is
you just use the word key.
You use the word key. That's why I never remember it, because it makes no sense.
Because the key is always going to be a string, right?
It has to be. Okay.
Wait, do you need the curly braces there?
Yeah, because it's an object. It has to have that.
Well, what am I seeing on? Oh, okay. Well, what am I seeing in the documentation right now? Because like they don't have
Oh, they do. It's curly braces. They're doing this generic typing.
Well, aren't the curly braces just because the interface keyword requires curly braces? Like, what happens if you get rid of curly braces on line 12? I'm just curious.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so it complains. All right, I'm with you. Sorry.
Yeah, because I could do like foo is a number and bar is a function. Something like this should work, and you can define like a bunch of things, and then like the catch-all.
Huh.
And then everything else is a valid string key, essentially. That has to be an entity.
Okay.
I regret using JavaScript objects already. ID equals no.
We maybe is it unset? What is the is it, or is it delete? What is the thing that just removes the key entirely?
There's delete works on arrays. I don't think you can delete a property object.
I think it actually is.
Is it just a
and then
delete?
The array access notation. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Boy, that
cool.
syntax sucks. That's terrible.
I can't. There's like one thing that uses spaces for a method call, and it's this. I'm like, yeah. I guess E should like. I'm gonna say E dot. I don't know. ID equals null.
E dot manager equals null. Yeah.
Yeah. E dot manager equals null, and I'm gonna say E dot recycle. You should give it some termination instruction someday.
Okay, yeah, and that maybe we'll do 27 and 28 inside of it, right? Something like that.
Yeah, or like, maybe there's like an optional cleanup, or like, it's we have it, maybe you define if it's on the object, call it.
Yeah, all of these kind of like circular relationships where the container points to the thing that's inside and the thing that's inside points to its container. We're going to run into all these existential conversations about where do the triggers live? Do they live in the manager? Mm-hmm. I actually kind of like what you wrote right now because there's a symmetry between registration and unregistration, right?
Yep.
Like clean up your own mess kind of thing. Which is
nice. I was thinking this was really for like other behaviors, like when a bullet has to recycle itself, it explodes. I don't know. This is probably the last thing that happens, so maybe this is just silly.
Yeah.
I think unregistered, we assume that behavior has been done once it unregisters.
Yeah, and maybe unregister is really just logistical cleanup, and any kind of like actual business logic should just be in the update function, right? Like, yep. if an object is dying, it's not that it should be unregistered from the entity manager; it's that its state should change and should just have different behaviors, and that's at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Does that work? Excuse me? What is this syntax? What is element?
I don't fucking know. Oh, you know what it is? Is it like... I don't know. We could do an update on the entity manager and a render on the entity manager. That's another way we could do this, right? Is we can do an update. We can have an update method on the entity manager that iterates over its contents and does the exact thing that you're doing right now.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
There is no dot array object. Yeah. Great. I like that a lot. And especially because it'll do all our updates instead of looping over the entities here. Yeah, it does them in sequence. That makes a lot of sense. Render definitely needs our context. My editor thinks it's in 4 tabs now. It's just murdering me. Update. Ooh, I saw it. There we go.
So what's interesting about using a key value object, I think in practice it's not going to matter, but iteration order is technically not guaranteed for JavaScript objects.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, does that matter?
It only matters if the game logic matters, right?
Fuck. Well, so that's interesting because because like the entity manager, if we're just adding or removing things to it all the time, like, don't we kind of have that problem no matter, like, if we add things in random orders? Like the player's always first, but then like everything after that is kind of like who knows.
Yeah, I guess creation order of entities should not matter to our game. So you're pointing out a
Yeah,
really good point, right? Like
yeah.
maybe it's
We
actually good that it doesn't matter. Um, and if you find yourself caring about order, that order should be structured in the business logic somehow. So like
mhm.
another thing that we could do is we could have, and this is where the database model kind of starts to make sense, is it's like maybe the game loop is like select all objects that are bullets, update all the bullets in order, and then select all objects that are players, and then update the player, and then select all objects that are enemies and
Yep.
update the enemies. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, but for now, I think we just iterate over everything and we update it, and then we iterate over everything, and then we
Cool.
I think with shooting things, it's helpful to do bullets at a particular time, because maybe like you want to do the bullets first, because if they kill something, you want the thing that just got killed to maybe change state into getting hit or getting killed rather than doing its normal behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, though. How's that?
Yeah, and also we can maybe maybe the entity manager is the thing that keeps that context too, because like on registration we can ask it for like type and bucket things as we need to.
Yep.
It's extremely silly that I'm having trouble iterating over this, so maybe this was the wrong choice.
What about a for loop? Is that doable?
Yeah.
We get the key. I'm surprised the object.values didn't work there. That was very strange.
I've hit that before. Object.keys exists, object.values doesn't. Which, you know what, it's fine. We're just going to do this. Wait, I wanted. Fine. This dot entities key dot update.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like order is going to be a little bit weird here, because unless we do some unique depth, the way that we're drawing things right now, like you might see Z fighting, and Z fighting means that like two entities overlap each other. They have essentially the same depth, and then there's kind of like an arbitrary order in which they're rendered. I don't think it matters here, because again, like I suspect that object.keys is going to preserve insertion order. Like I think that's just like under the hood, that's what's going to happen. It's just not part of the language, right?
Technically, I'm pretty sure it does, but like I've been told for so many years to never count on that.
Yeah,
probably for good reason. Yeah.
Right. So, eventually, probably what we're looking at here is that, like, I don't really know. I was going to say, like, maybe the key value thing is not what we want, but let's worry about that later. Like, I think it's easy to kind of suffer over that detail. I'd love to see a bullet tonight.
Yeah, damn right. Also, the nice thing is, like, I don't know, register can actually become more complex in its behavior, and we can have like a bucket of players, bullets, and let that be the order. Because I assume the order of bullets probably matters less than the order of all the bullets can happen randomly. We don't really care.
Yeah.
Okay, we just did a big ol' refactor, which all should do this. Player.new player manager. The manager has it. Oh, sorry. Actually, it's manager.register. I don't even know if this is going to work in the constructor. Let's find out. Oh, God.
Yeah.
It did not.
Let's register the player in the game loop. I like the idea that the thing that creates the entity is the thing that adds it to the entity manager. So the player will add the bullets to the entity manager, but
oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we can use this constructor, and then manager.register player. this actually is great.
Okay. Much
Back at
ado
it.
about getting our original functionality back, right?
Update all entities.
Yeah.
Yeah, but look, but then the game loop is done.
Yeah. You know
That's
what's
actually pretty
technically cool is you could technically make the playfield an entity if you wanted to. That's generally considered to be a little bit unusual, but like what ultimately is unique about the playfield? Probably nothing, right? It's just like probably something that all of the other entities are going to be interacting with at some point.
Yeah, that crossed my mind as we were doing this. I was just like, you know what? I don't want to do that yet. Okay, let's see. Document.add event listener. Oh no, we've got key down. Sorry.
Spacebar is what we want, right? Spacebar is the thing that shoots.
Correct. If this dot key
and I think
down,
it's key up that we're gonna like. What's interesting is okay. Now we're now the input handling is interesting, right? Because it's. I guess it could be what we want is essentially either the first time the key is pressed or the first time that the key is released. Because otherwise, key down.
It's going to fire one bullet per frame, right?
We could add a timer to the state and say that like there's a cooldown. That's fine too. I mean, maybe holding down the spacebar is a good way to do shooting. I don't know. What do you think? Would you rather tap it multiple times, or do you want to just like hold it down?
I was thinking hold down.
Okay.
You remember that experience of playing Diablo where you had to click the mouse like a million times and it was really silly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Okay. So if we do hold down, then we want a cooldown timer then, right? So we're not firing every single frame.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's add some entities. Okay. But yeah, this is gonna fire way too fast. Yeah. Preemptively. So let's see. Player needs to be aware of bullets. And then we're just gonna. This is kind of cool actually. I guess it's just manager dot register new bullet. Yep. And we need to pass it the position and the orientation.
Yep.
This dot.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
And just for the sake of simplicity, maybe we can just assume that the bullets start at the control point. We don't need to worry about starting the bullet at the tip yet.
No,
we can do that later.
Agreed. Yeah. Position is a vec2. Orientation is a number. Oops. Getting that backwards would be weird. Okay, so let's see. So what I've done is nothing. Holding spacebar is adding stuff to an array we can't see. Yeah. So I guess maybe let's drop a quick render in here. And I think this is going to render a bunch of... we got to do the mapping too.
Yep. We could do circles for the bullets if you wanted to simplify some of this stuff, or we could do more triangles if you like the idea of it being a triangle.
I was thinking like lines, so like.
Oh yeah, totally.
Tiny bullet wrecks. Circle. Circle's easy because we don't have to rotate it. That's kind of nice though.
Yeah.
Now I want to do lines. I feel really good about this this matrix stuff. It's been a delight.
So essentially, tiny thin rectangles. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, or like pill shapes. Oh yeah, here we go. This is great. So one thing that's happening is that I was a little worried about this. Position, I guess, needs to be a copy.
Yes, you can do vec2.copy.
Ah, man. And I don't need to copy. Oh,
Oh, you need to do. You need to pass in the vec2.create.
Yeah,
That's
yep,
just
yep.
the thing that we're gonna have to live with. Sorry.
That's fine. I'm just happy. I'm happy it returns it so you can do create in line.
Yeah.
So now, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, I love it.
Those are our bullets. This is
This
actually
is not,
kind of a cool drawing program you've created here, though.
I was gonna say, this isn't Bolo, this is Tokyo Drift, man.
How many entities have we created at this point?
The browser's still fine.
I mean, it's 60 FPS, so there's probably 60 times the number of seconds that we've held it down.
I'll hold it down for a while.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Aren't you excited?
I'm gonna screenshot that. That's dope.
Yeah, this will be our thumbnail.
Yeah, that's a winner for today.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very cool. Okay, so let's see what hasn't happened. Update is not updating. Yeah. It's interesting that bullet is just copy paste. I guess that's how this works. It's a mover. So yes.
And interesting that the bullets are not going to kill themselves. They're still flying right now, right?
They're way out in the world, yeah. But I am thrilled by this.
Yeah, isn't that incredible? Like we just copy pasted some code and it's just there.
It's so cool. But we gave it a better vector. Okay, so let's see. I should make some better points.
You could just smooth all these numbers a little bit, right? Like this could be if you did everything by 1/2, or yeah, it's cool. Oh, dude, that's kind of cool.
Not bad, not bad. We'll leave that for yeah. I'm happy leaving that for now. But yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a laser.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So I see the Z fighting you're talking about because something needs to know to draw the player above all this, but
or we can spawn the bullets at the tip, right?
Yeah. Cool.
And then
rad.
It's gonna be really cool because we'll have all kinds of there's a category of game object that is purely visual that we don't usually call entity, which is like a particle particle emitter, and that can be like if we wanted to do like muzzle flare or that sort of thing.
Right? Oh yeah, that'd be rad.
Yeah.
Right, because it doesn't interact with anything.
Exactly, it's non-interactive.
Yeah.
Although they can have physics, like particle emitters can have physics.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But I guess it doesn't.
We got a lot of bullets in the realm.
Oh, honestly, I'm not. I think that might just be some stream lag because it still feels very smooth over here.
Modern computers, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, we're using all 64 gigabytes of memory here to just track them infinite bullets. That's really cool.
Probably tens of thousands of bullets at this point, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Great. Maybe let's clamp them bullets.
We can kill them, right?
Let's kill them. I was gonna say let's make them fire slower too, but let's kill them first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
And we will. This is complexity that will seem unnecessary right now, but we will not regret it.
Bring it on.
Which is that if you kill an entity in the update function, I actually don't think unregister should be allowed. We should not allow it. We should not call unregister directly in an update call. What we should do is call mark for deletion.
Okay.
And then or this should be an entity manager. And what we do is we have a queue of things that we're going to kill, and then we unregister them after all the updates happen. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Nope. I love it. So let's see. So this will be like to delete and
Yeah,
then
this is-
array
yeah.
of
Of
that's
strings.
yeah. Cool. This dot to delete equals
Dot push. Yep, you got me. And then in the update, at the very end of the update loop, we unregister everything that was marked for deleted.
Okay, sorry. So after update, before render. So you're saying basically the entire system updates itself as if everything existed. What gets deleted, and we call it a day. Yeah.
We can be off by a frame. I do think it makes sense that if you're unregistering something for deletion, then it should probably not render that frame. That's sort of.
I just initially had in my head to go after render, but this makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Stuff for each key.
ID is what we called it below, I think.
Yep. Let's do that here too.
And maybe we don't even need an unregister function because we can just copy the body of unregister into this thing.
Right. Yeah. So then it's actually impossible to do that improperly.
Yes. This is really great. This is fantastic. This feels really good.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, sorry. This is just. Oh, actually, I want to grab the entity so we can entity.
Yes.
Equals delete this dot entities ID.
And const entity, is that what it's complaining about?
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yep, I love it. And then
last thing, clear the to delete.
Yep. Is that even a?
It's just equals array. That's probably the simplest thing you can do.
Oh, it's not a const. It's a property. Yes. I'm so used to being unable to reassign value. So wonderful.
So the reason why I recommended this is it's always weird to modify a list as you are iterating over it. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so between line 22 and line 24, I think it's best if we're not modifying this dot entities, right? Or at least we're not. Oh, but that's interesting though, right? Because we are adding to it, right? We are appending to it in that loop.
There's, I guess, I would say maybe no guarantee that this loop through entities does cause update on those entities this time, though.
I would actually say that it actually absolutely does not call update, right? Because what we're doing is we call object.keys on the current state of this.entities, which
exactly.
is frozen at that point, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe the deletion problem I'm talking about is accidentally solved by this, but I actually do think that like removal can be a little bit tricky, and it's nice to just have this graveyard area or this like staging ground for removal.
I think this makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So you were saying clamping. I think what we mean is to let the bullets kill themselves if they fly off screen. Is that what you were kind of saying?
Oh, I was actually gonna say let's clamp it to time so that you can shoot like one per half second or something.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine too. Totally.
Yeah. Which in the player would be, let's see.
It would be like a bullet, firing cooldown, bullet cooldown, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, basically we need we need the timestamp last fired, and you can only fire if, like, we only add a object if it's there. Okay. Last fired at. I mean, really, it's a number.
Yeah.
Let's use the Unix timestamps, and then this dot. So let's see if last fired at what is it, time.now.2i or something? Nope. Time?
Date. New date.
To
it must be a number, right?
No, new date. Date time isn't even in JavaScript.
Is there like an integer cast that we can do?
Um,
Date.now. Is it date.now?
yeah, there we go.
So is that granular enough? That looks like a regular old Unix time to me.
Oh no, JavaScript time should be down to the millisecond.
Interesting.
Current Unix timestamp. Yeah, I think this has 4 more digits. Yeah.
Okay. Millisecond granularity should be good enough.
Yeah, because actually it's microsecond, thousandths of a second. Yeah. That should be good enough.
Microsecond is a millionth, I believe. Millisecond is a 1,000th. Yeah.
Jeff, I feel so stupid. Okay.
It's fine.
It's, you know what? It's 8:53. Cool. So if it's greater than 100, do this, and then this dot last fired at equals date.now.
Yeah, and then I would actually also say there should be an else to this. If the key is not down, we should clear the. Actually, the else is the outer if. If the key is not down, let's actually restore the.
Negative
let's
1.
set the timer back to -1.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So
Sure.
if you somehow, maybe this doesn't matter. I'm being too fussy. I actually like what you had originally.
Well, here's half a second. So, but if I can hit the key really fast, I can get more bullets. So that's a mechanic.
Okay, I mean it's really kind of up to how we want it to feel. Yeah, I mean if that's the mechanic, then that's great. Otherwise, I think what we're doing right now is a fixed rate of fire, right? So you can't actually press it faster than this, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we need to reset it. It'll just be occasionally a very
yeah. So you can't like if you set it right now to 500, you shouldn't be able to press it physically faster than that, right?
Yeah, I can't, no matter how many.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, cool. So yeah, let's kill him too.
Okay.
Oh gosh, we're gonna need to maybe we don't have time to do it. We gotta do a lot of stuff for that, don't we? Like collisions.
So if you want to kill the bullets, I mean, the other thing we could do is just like if you pass outside of the playfield. Well, when you say killing them, do you want them to like explode against the walls or like?
No, I want them to leave memory.
Leave memory. Okay. We can hard code the dimensions of the playfield into, or we can pull them from the constants, right? Because like everything is derived from the constants in common.ts. So we could recalculate the size of the playfield.
I have an even dumber idea.
Yeah,
we could calculate how long the bullet should live based on the number of updates that get run.
That's totally fine too. So, and that would be interesting because like you could make the bullets die before they leave the screen as well. Like that's sometimes like max range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, they have a max range, and it's either. Yeah. Okay. Let's do that.
There's a TPL for the bullet, right?
Yep. I like that. Time to live. Nope. Nope.
And this time could actually literally be a number of seconds, right? We couldn't do it like that.
Oh, that's true. Then we don't really need to worry about things going off the grid. And in fact, if eventually we are moving, if like the grid is moving below us, you could maybe shoot off screen in an interesting way.
Sure. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So actually, time to live is a constant. 1, and then spawns at another. This dot spawned at equals date.now, and then I guess it's if date.now minus spawned at greater than time to live, which is right now far too small.
This manager dot market relation, this dot ID.
Did I pass ID? I kind of want to pass this.
All right.
I just love passing around like the object. Call me a fool. Just feels clean.
Cool.
That's a function. This should be
spawn
at least 1,000. Yeah. Cool.
Is that?
Is that 500 milliseconds? I guess it is. That's about 5 bullets. They're firing 1 per millisecond, or 1 per 100 milliseconds. So yeah.
Interesting. Okay. It feels like it's longer than 500 milliseconds, doesn't it?
It does, but a second is actually slow.
1,000.
Yeah.
1,000.
1,000.
I don't know. I mean, it's doing something, right? Like it is actually. I mean, it's doing
what
we want.
We gave the bullets a speed of 10, which I think means it's moving 10 pixels per frame and 600 pixels in a 60 frame per second. So the whole playfield should be about 1 second of bullet travel, and that's about right.
Okay.
Yeah. Or sorry, it's the whole playfield top to bottom, because this
that was some awesome back of the envelope in Dom's head right there. I appreciate that.
I was wondering if this would actually turn out to be pixels, and it is. It's great.
It is pixels. Yes.
Yeah. You know what, man? There's so many weird units in this stuff. I never know anymore.
What is giving us 60 frames a second? Is that just Chrome? Is Chrome figuring it out?
I think we're getting whatever. I went back to Chrome just for you. I think it's more performant. But yes.
Guy at home.
So I think it's that request animation frame attempts to give you 60. Yeah. So that means that everything is tied to the frame rate we get. So if our CPU lags and we get 30 frames per second, our bullets travel half as far. Yeah. Great. I love it. Okay.
Yeah. The frame rate compensation, every topic in games is just this rich minefield of complexity and sadness. And so even like frame rate management and frame rate independence, it's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
What is recommended as a kind of like appetizer for what's coming. The way I've always done it is I've just, when I call a game loop, I sample the time, and then when the next game loop comes around, I sample the time again, and I pass the difference of those two into the update function.
Yep.
And then scale all of my velocities and things like that by that amount.
Yep, that makes sense.
The problem with that is like non-deterministic, right? You can't, like, it's kind of hard to deterministically simulate the same outcomes, especially if you have like physics where things are like overlapping and that kind of thing. Like it's hard to get the same exact outcome again, which then makes it hard to debug. So what a lot of people do is they'll basically have constant time step for every frame. So you'll still pass a time in, but you're saying like it has to be 0.25 or something like that.
Interesting.
And then they'll actually simulate multiple game simulations per render frame. Does that make sense?
Whoa. Yeah. Is it to like if they have the extra time, they just confirm? They're like, we're gonna do this 3 times to take the one that comes back twice, basically.
So this is where all the complexity comes in. It gets really complicated because like, what if your render isn't like an even multiple of your fixed time step, right? That's the thing that you're getting at, right? Like, are you going to get what's called Judder, which means that you're getting consistent render frames, like your refresh rate's constant, but the number of updates per frame per render frame is inconsistent over time because it's not like an even multiple, right? If your render frame is 60 FPS, which is 16.7 milliseconds, but your update is an even 5 milliseconds, you're gonna like accumulate this difference over time. And there are all kinds of bullshit ways to compensate for that. And
That's
in fact,
weird.
sometimes people even make the render. They will actually make the render location where, and they'll basically interpolate between like the current frame and the next frame by the amount of extra that's there. It's wild. So,
Gosh, dude.
sorry. We're fine right now. Frame rate independence is maybe something we can get to later.
Yeah.
Although if we do net play, it matters, right? Because in net play,
Right. I'm glad.
server has to know what that.
I'm glad we haven't started with that because my brain would likely explode,
Right.
and that doesn't sound very fun.
Net play is going to be so dope.
I'm very excited. Take me to Serverland. I love Serverland.
Yeah, I'm kind of both excited and scared for net play, but I think we should do it.
I'm game. Yeah, I feel like next week would be really, or Sunday it'd be really fun to like get some objects into this, and then think about what our logic and our game loop looks like in baby talk servers.
Yeah.
Oof.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's probably a fair distance we should go before we talk about servers, because servers is going to be the hardest thing that we do, and it's going to be hard. Not only because it is a complex subject, but it's going to also be hard because, like, visually, it's going to be really uninteresting to us, right? Like, 3D graphics is also technically hard, but it's going to, like, look cool. You know, there's going to be that constant little, like, carrot that we're giving ourselves of just making it look cooler. Whereas net play is just kind of like, I can't even see what's going on. Let's debug the message stream, you know?
Yeah, fair. Okay, great. I'm glad that's way in the future because I'm excited just to build this whole game too.
Yeah. Oh man, are you excited? This is so cool.
I'm so excited. Yeah. It's weird because like I don't know. All we got to do is like render this triangle last week. I'm just like, oh man, now it's like a little man.
Yep.
There's
our boy's all grown up.
Our boy's all grown up, and he's got big purple bullets. It's great. Yeah, and I'm really excited to think about things like the other entities. You know, rudimentary AI. Like, you know, are there other tanks? Are there computer tanks? Are there like turrets that are aiming at us? Do we have a little person that runs out of the tank to get stuff? I like the little engineer or drone mechanic. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and all of these features on the margin are relatively easy to add, right? That's the cool thing.
Yeah. I feel like this is a much we've done a better job than Breakout in terms of laying a nice foundation for ourselves. So yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
All right.
Sweet dude. I'll see you Sunday.
Yep. Next stream Sunday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific.
Let me push this code. This is session 6, right? It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, 6 into it.
We've made 6 podcasts.
Congratulations. This is our
6th
session anniversary.
Whew.
It's
a big number, I know. Important. Cool, dude. All right. I will see you on Sunday.
All right. Take care, Dom. Take care, everybody on the